back from Brussels, back from the summit. I have to say it was embarrassing being an English person, British person in Brussels last night. I had press packs from all over the world chasing me for comment because they just enjoyed seeing the humiliation of our Prime Minister, almost rather like a blood sport. What came out of it all? In the early hours, an agreement to, yes, once again, just kick the can down the road. This time to the 31st of October. Halloween, trick or treaty, one might say. But of course, if the treaty, or what Mrs May calls the deal, is passed between times, we could leave at any time. Flex extension is what it's known as, and Mrs May herself, of course, is hoping she can come to a deal with Labour before the 22nd of May so that she can cancel, I mean, this is hard to believe, some of this stuff, but so she can cancel the European elections, the campaign of which begins tomorrow. I mean, you actually, the thick of it, no political drama's got anything on what's going on here. The truth of it is, we are no nearer to any settlement of this Brexit crisis in any way at all. I thought the whole thing yesterday was just abject and awful. But the action today went back, of course, to the House of Commons, and watching that was LBC's political editor, Theo Usherwood. Good evening, Theo.
Good evening, Nigel.
So what dramas did we have in the Commons today?
It was an extraordinary afternoon in the House of Commons as Conservative MPs, including Sir Bill Cash, who of course is the chair of a select committee, turned on Theresa May saying, "Prime Minister, when will you resign?" He described it as an abject surrender, the extension agreed in Brussels. Steve Baker, former minister, stood up and asked the Prime Minister whether she was now relying on Labour in order to maintain the confidence of the House of Commons. Theresa May's message to MPs from right across the House was go away, have an Easter break, and then come back and hopefully we can resolve this issue. But behind the scenes, the talks will be continuing between senior Labour Party members and senior ministers within Theresa May's cabinet to try and find a resolution. Indeed, I understand Theresa May met Jeremy Corbyn face-to-face this evening to prepare the ground for those talks, and all eyes now looking as if Mrs May is going to try and find a resolution by getting Labour on board. Of course, that is very unlikely.
I would have thought so too. But I do wonder, Theo, and maybe to some extent the pressure's off Mrs May because they're going to be in recess, but I wonder, when you hear someone like Sir Bill Cash, who all through his long parliamentary career, however critical he may have been, has always been publicly fiercely loyal, hasn't he, to the leader and to the party. And when someone like Sir Bill Cash calls on her to resign, are we getting near the point where Jeremy Corbyn puts down a vote of confidence and Tory MPs actually vote with him?
Well, they wouldn't necessarily vote with him, but they'd abstain. They'd abstain, Nigel. I think it would be too much for Conservatives, especially with Conservatives like Bill Cash, who you rightly say have been very loyal to the Conservative Party throughout their careers, to vote with a Labour motion to bring down a Conservative government. But they could well sit on their hands, and that was the implication of Steve Baker's question was, if you're relying on Labour votes, well, you don't have our confidence, and then, of course, it would go over to Jeremy Corbyn to lay a motion of confidence in the government. But from what I understand, if a deal is to be done between Theresa May and Jeremy Corbyn, then it would be contingent on Labour agreeing not to lay a motion of confidence for the rest of the duration of phase one of the negotiations to get the withdrawal agreement and the relevant pieces of legislation through the House of Commons. Theresa May couldn't go into this, say, sign up Labour, and then we find ourselves, 2 or 3 weeks in, the withdrawal agreement having been passed on the back of Labour votes, and then Sir Keir Starmer looks at a document and says, well, we're not quite happy with this, we're not going to support this, and Jeremy Corbyn puts in a vote of confidence. That, the government, Theresa May are wise to that, and they would guard against that. So if a deal is to be done, they would want assurances from Mr Corbyn and from his most senior advisors that they wouldn't do that. Wouldn't play fast and loose and table a motion of confidence in the government.
No. And finally, Theo, nominations open tomorrow morning for the European elections, and I wonder, what is the mood of Conservative and Labour MPs about these elections?
Yeah. The mood, from what I'm hearing, is that, councillors are going out on the doorstep because, of course, there's some local elections coming up. Candidates will be going out on the doorstep, and they're both, particularly from the Conservatives, because it is they have owned Brexit since 2016, and are saying, they're met with fury on the doorstep. People are, 3 years down the line, 3 years since we voted, the UK voted to leave the European Union, we still do not have a resolution. Indeed, the Prime Minister's spokesman was so sensitive to this earlier that when he was asked repeatedly whether Theresa May would be taking part in those European elections as the leader of the Conservative Party, delivering those leaflets, knocking on doors, on those phone banks. You've seen it up close, haven't you, Nigel?
Oh, yes.
You have the photo call with the Prime Minister. Oh, hello, it's Theresa May on the phone. How's it going? Will you vote Conservative? She's not. The Prime Minister's spokesman couldn't even confirm that she'd be taking part, which is extraordinary.
Says a lot. Theo, thank you very much indeed. And of course, the truth of it is, folks, we are no closer to any resolution. The can has been kicked down the road for 6 months. And I'm asking you tonight, what do you want to see happen in those next 6 months? Do you think Labour and the Tories should reach a compromise around a customs union and basically a single market? If that's how you feel, call 0345 6060 973. Or maybe you think it's about time May went and a proper Brexiteer took the reins and changed direction. If that's what you want, text to 84850. Or tell me, is 6 months long enough to have a second referendum? If that's what you want, please tweet using the hashtag Farage and LBC, at LBC, and of course, Facebookers, you can comment too. Let's head to Warwickshire, speak to Lee, who's a new caller. Good evening, Lee.
Hi, Nigel, how are you?
I'm all right. I've returned from this scene of national humiliation in Brussels. It's the only way I can put it, Lee. There she was, alone, begging for a deal. The whole thing's pitiful in my view. So, Lee, the can's been kicked down the road. What would you like to see happen in these intervening months?
So, Nigel, I'm going to be absolutely honest with you right from the start. I voted to remain. At the same time, I'm actually, more than anything, sick and tired of the division that we have within this country. Now, I listen to your show on my way home from work every evening, and I listen to it, Nigel, because you were a very, very prominent voice within the Brexit movement. And I respect what you say. I absolutely respect what you say. And I do this so that I understand both sides of the debate. Sure. Now, Nigel, what I just said to your researcher and what I'd say to you, me personally, and I don't want to come across as a Ramona here, what I've just said is I'd actually like to see us revoke Article 50.
Oh, right.
Before you come across...
Oh, right. Just give up on democracy. Lee in Warwickshire knows better than 17.4 million people. Is that it?
No, sorry. No, not at all.
Right.
Nigel,
okay,
I'm not actually saying that I want to revoke Article 50 to cancel Brexit. What I'm actually saying is there a way, and you'll probably know this better than me, is there a way to revoke it so that we can actually say to the EU, look, from what I understand, they need us more than we need them, and I'd agree with that. Can we not go to them and say, right, let's stop this, let's stop the deadlines for a moment. What we actually need to do is negotiate what leaving looks like so that we have an absolutely crystal clear plan as to what it's going to be, what the benefits are, so we can then turn back round to our own House of Commons and put the deal in front of them to say, this is Brexit, this is what it's going to achieve, this is how it's going to be better, now let's go ahead and do it. Let's put Article 50 back in place. But
Lee, you can't trigger Article 50, revoke it, trigger it again. It's not the hokey cokey. And the other point is, how could you possibly know what Brexit would look like unless you were in a negotiation with the European Union? And if you'd revoked Article 50, they wouldn't even have the conversation with you.
But is that not the case, that we actually put something to them? Because if the EU are desperate for us to remain in the EU in order to pay into their budget and to
£1 billion a month, £1 billion a month, yeah.
Exactly. Can we not turn around to them and sort of say, look, okay, we're going to put a stop to this motion for a moment on the condition that, look, we're Britain. We're a massive part of the EU. Why can't we turn round to the EU and say to them, we are going to leave. However, we're not going to leave right now. What we are going to do is we're going to stop all this kicking the can down the road. We're going to revoke Article 50 so that we remain as part of the EU Parliament. We remain paying into the budget for the moment on the condition that you guys negotiate with us as though we're linked.
I can promise you every penny in Lombard Street to an orange that if we revoke Article 50 and we are full members of the European Union, they will not even have that conversation. Nice try, Lee. It won't work. I thank you. I'm going to move on. I get by text from Richard in Chelsea, the worst part of extending Brexit is the Euro fanatics will bore the living daylights out of everyone, every hour, every day. Well, Richard, to be fair, there are some Eurosceptics that can bore for Britain as well. And, Lee mentioned division. The reason we got division is the Remainers wouldn't accept the result. That is my view. Tell me I'm wrong. Let's go to Tom in Bedford, another new caller. Welcome, Tom.
Hi, Nigel.
So, what do you want to see happen, Tom?
I suppose there's really two options, Nigel, as I see it. Now, young Claude Juncker made a comment last week with The Independent to say that we either sign the withdrawal agreement now, or even if we do leave without a deal, that before there will be any trade talks, that we will still have to accept the Northern Irish backstop. They still have to hand over the 39 billion.
No.
Absolutely.
No.
Nigel, and Maureen McGuinness
Tom.
Question Time last Thursday night, and she repeated the exact same comment.
I'm sorry, Tom, but if Mr. Juncker thinks that us leaving on WTO terms means we're still going to give him 39 billion, he can whistle for it.
But that's my point exactly, Nigel. And what I can't understand is why yourself and Jacob Rees-Mogg and people like you aren't screaming this from the rooftops.
Well, Tom, I tell you what, if I'm being too shy about it, I'm sorry, I will do better in future. I've got to move on. You're listening to The Nigel Farage Show here on LBC at 6:15, and time for the news headlines with Lisa Aziz.
Julian Assange's lawyer says the WikiLeaks founder will challenge any extradition proceedings to the US after being arrested at the Ecuadorian embassy in London 7 years after taking refuge there. Theresa May's had a short meeting with Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn this afternoon after telling MPs she still wants the UK to leave the EU before the end of May with a Brexit deal. A woman's been jailed for at least 15 years for murder after stabbing her husband while she was drunk at their home in northwest London. LBC weather, dry with clear spells for many through tonight, cloudy with showers across northern Scotland and eastern England, a low of -3.
LBC Travel, I'm Katie Tyler. Queues continue on routes around Hammersmith Bridge as it remains shut for emergency repairs until further notice. It's struggling on the A4 in both directions through Chiswick and on routes through Mortlake, East Sheen and Fulham. Long delays on the A13 eastbound between the East India Dock Tunnel and the Beckton flyover. That's because the lane is closed for emergency repairs and there's been an accident along this stretch. And in Thornton Heath, London Road is closed in both directions near Thornton Heath Pond because of an accident. It's queuing on the approaches.
LBC.
Decisions.
Just pick your favourite. What about the silver one? You like that one?
Yeah, but that blue one's a tasty little number.
Great, let's grab it before somebody else does.
The Volkswagen used car event from 11th to 30th of April. For a limited time, get 2 years warranty, up to 2 years MOT cover, 2 years roadside assistance and 2 services all included on Solutions Personal Contract Plan at 8.9% APR representative. Pick your favourite before it's gone. Offers on used Volkswagens aged 3 to 60 months. Excludes electric vehicles. Participating retailers. 18s and over. T's and C's apply. Subject to status. Indemnities may be required. Volkswagen Financial Services. MOT cover is underwritten by UK General Insurance Limited. Visit volkswagen.co.uk.
This is LBC.
It's good to know that Dad's up and awake at the usual time. Kettle's on, and it looks like he's watching TV. And with Hive Link, I can check all of this without invading his privacy. Hive Link makes it easy. The new smart service that lets you check your loved one is getting on with their day as usual from your phone, and lets you know if something seems out of the ordinary. Because there may come a point in life when you need to care for those that cared for you. Search Hive Link to discover more. Broadband required. Terms apply.
Have you ever had dealings with one of these big names? Lloyds, TSB, Halifax, Barclays, NatWest, HSBC or MBNA? If the answer's yes, you may have been missold PPI. With the deadline for new claims just a few months away, it's got to be worth finding out for sure. To start your PPI claim with the claims guys, just text ANSWER to 66777. Text ANSWER to 66777 now. Alternatively, you can complain direct to your lender or the Financial Ombudsman for free.
The claims guys.
Helen's homecoming lamb.
It's a lot quieter around here since the boys went off to college. Sunday roast was always the highlight. All the family around the table for my roast leg of lamb with salsa verde crust. I'm doing it again today. It's their favourite and... Hang on a minute.
Hi, Mum. We brought a couple of pals back. Is that all right?
Yeah. It's good to have them back. For a couple of weeks.
Make your own homecoming roast with our tender, tasty grass-fed lamb. Food Love Stories. Brought to you by Tesco.
I do love a little chat with the neighbours. But how about some privacy?
For unique garden fencing and screening, get to B&Q. Our Neva range is easy to install and allows you to create beautiful zoned-off areas. Explore our wood, composite and aluminium options at DIY.com. You can do it when you B&Q it.
You know your business, what keeps you up at night, and the moments that make it all worthwhile. You know your 5-year plan, and that you really want to be there in 2. We know we can help you get there. Barclays offers unsecured loans of up to £100,000 that can be with you in days or even hours. To apply for a loan that's right for your business, search Barclays Business Loans. Let's go forward. Subject to status, T's and C's apply, guarantee may be needed.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC.
And breaking news, Sky News are reporting that Whitehall are formally standing down all preparations for a no-deal exit from the European Union. As if this Prime Minister ever meant it in the first place. I coined the phrase, no deal is better than a bad deal, in the last couple of weeks of the referendum. She parroted it, but she never, ever meant it. And the other side knew she never meant it, and Parliament did its best to weaken our negotiating position further. Frankly, this Prime Minister has betrayed Brexit, and this behaviour tells me 2 things. 1, that she never meant it in the first place, and 2, she thinks she's going to be Prime Minister for a lot longer. If that's the case, the national humiliation continues. Now, Tony asks me, he says, if the treaty can't be renegotiated, and let's be clear, that agreement last night, everybody in the European Union says there is no renegotiation of the treaty. But he goes on to say, what is all this then about agreements with Corbyn? Please explain. So, you've got a legally binding treaty that Mrs May keeps trying to get through Parliament. It's 585 pages long. Attached to it is a 30-page document which is called the Political Declaration. That does not have any force of law, but is designed to highlight where we might get to over the course of the next 2 or 3 years. And it's within that political declaration that Labour are demanding that we put in permanent membership of a customs union and all the aspects of single market membership, and that is what's being negotiated between Corbyn's team and May's team right now. And that's something that the bureaucrats in Brussels could agree to over a cup of coffee, because it's not legally binding. So it's that package that May is trying to put together using Corbyn that she hopes will get through the House of Commons. I have to say, if it ever did, it would not be Brexit at all. Nigel, do you reckon Mrs May calls Corbyn your excellency yet, asks Boz? Well, it does feel a bit like that. So what do you want to happen in the next 6 months? Peggy on Facebook says she'd like Brexiteers to give up. You can't get it over the line. It's a national embarrassment. Peggy, it's not Brexit that's a national embarrassment. It's the Prime Minister and the House of Commons. It's a Remainer Parliament who refuse to accept and implement the will of the people in that referendum, despite having told us they would. That's why people like me are hopping mad. I wonder how Robert in Oxford, a new caller, feels. Good evening, Robert.
Hello, Nigel.
Good evening. So, what do you want to see happen?
Good evening. Well, Nigel, I'm quite pleased that we've decided to go for an extension, and as far as I'm concerned, the extension can be as long as you like, because setting asunder 40 years of partnership with Europe is quite a complex matter. You must agree that. And doing it in 2 years, which is a sort of arbitrary time which was given within Article 50, quite frankly, in my opinion, wasn't enough. I mean, the way in which Article 50 was drafted was very loose, to say the least. So I think 2 years isn't long enough. The fact that we've agreed an extension now, I think it's a great idea. It should be as long as we like to get it right. I think if we agree a longer extension with Europe, it will give everybody a chance to create a proper working future relationship with our partners in Europe. And I think all this talk about leaving now on WTO terms without an agreement, whilst I understand the merits to that, I don't think it's a practical solution to the long-standing relationship we've had with our European partners.
But we voted,
and I think our time is far better spent agreeing...
to change that.
Sorry, carry on, yeah.
We voted to change that relationship.
I know we did, absolutely, yeah.
You can call them partners, I can call them dictators. It doesn't matter what term we use, but let's be clear. Brexit was about leaving political union.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, indeed.
But there was
about a new relationship.
Yeah, but there was no terms agreed. It was just a binary choice that everyone made, and understandably they made their views known. But I think we're all experiencing now how complicated this situation is, and oversimplifying it by saying, "Oh, we should just leave," is frankly not the right way to go.
Well,
we're oversimplifying it.
Robert,
there's no reason to say.
I wanted a free trade agreement. I campaigned for 25 years for a simple free trade agreement, not membership of a political union. Mrs. May has messed this up so much. None of us that voted Brexit did so to leave one set of European treaties for another European treaty. Can you understand why people on my side of the argument, Robert, are so upset with this?
Oh, I understand that. But the irony, of course, is we'll leave, Jeremy, and we'll spend the next 10, 15 years working our way back in again in some way, shape or form. So let's not waste time doing that. Let's do that now.
I don't think so. They're building a United States of Europe. They're building an army. We don't want it. Robert, thank you for your point of view. Hi, Nigel. Yvette Cooper for the next PM, says Ian. Well, that would be a matter, of course, firstly for the Labour Party. I would have thought Yvette Cooper's got little chance of being the next Prime Minister. After all, the hard left are in control of Labour. On Twitter, revoke Article 50, wait for a new crop of competent MPs in 20 years' time to decide the course. Adam, I have to say, I don't agree with revoking Article 50, but I do agree that what has happened here isn't just a willful betrayal of the vote. Actually, the sheer incompetence of our political class and our negotiators has been laid before everybody. What does Tom in Forest Gate want? A new caller. Good evening, Tom.
Hi, Nigel. Are you all right?
I'm all right, yeah, ish. So what do you make of it, Tom?
Okay, so I would want a no deal, but what I think is going to happen, I've followed the whole thing very, very closely since the beginning, and bearing in mind there's like 500 out of 650 MPs want Remain, and the fact that Theresa May cannot be trusted at all. Every single thing she says, she goes back on. Someone said the other week she's like the worst Prime Minister since Lord North. I've not looked at the history of Prime Ministers of the United Kingdom, but I would be very surprised if at the end of this process she's not deemed the worst Prime Minister in history.
I think there are some, Tom, now saying that Theresa May makes Lord North look good. In terms of being a good leader and being competent, she in my opinion, no doubt the worst Prime Minister. But it is the thing that troubles me more is what I see as sheer duplicity.
Yeah, She goes back on everything she says, but the only thing I think is I want no deal, and I now think that no deal is the only way that it can happen based on the fact that, I mean, if you look at World War II, I know some people would say it's not a war, but really this is a war in every sense except militarily. And so basically, if you look at World War II, the majority of people in this country were against the Nazis, but we've got like half of people that are like conspiring with the EU. So we've got Tony Blair going over there, talking, giving them little bits of information about how they can basically keep us in. So we've got like half the people in this country that are against us. But it's I personally think that, if there was another general election, it would probably come up with like a similar type of thing. No one would probably get a majority because no one, as much as I think Theresa May's awful, I would still rather she was the Prime Minister over Corbyn because he'd be even worse. So there would be I just don't think they'll get a majority in Parliament for any kind of deal. So I really don't see, I obviously voted Brexit, but I don't see that it will really happen. And I don't want to kiss your ass or anything, but I know you can't because you're not an MP and you'd have to be the leader of the party, but you're probably you would be the best person to go and negotiate it if that was possible. And I love watching the videos on YouTube of you winding them up because
I just tease them, Tom.
I love it. I think it's great. But the thing is, the last thing I really want to say obviously Theresa May should go, and if they can change these rules, hopefully she can go before December. But based on the fact that they elect their leader, I think I've read with the Tory party on MPs, I don't think that a Brexiteer Tory MP would end up being the leader. So probably, even if they change leaders, we get someone like Amber Rudd, who is exactly the same type of Ramona as the rest of them. So
Tom,
I don't see
that is possible.
Happening.
That is possible, and it's possible, isn't it, too, that this subject poses, a genuine threat to the integrity of a Tory party. Tom, very difficult to say which way it'll go, but a lot of people think that if the Conservatives do very badly in the 2nd of May local elections, and perhaps even worse, who's to say, in the 23rd of May, European elections, that actually the party will make her carry the can and make her go?
Yeah, I think they'll make her go, but the last point I want to make is basically, given the first past the post system in this country, the only way that we could feel as if we could really, get to these career politicians who want Remain is to vote them out. But basically, I don't think in the next general election, even if, say, all the people that voted Brexit didn't vote or they voted for someone else, I still think that the Labour and Tory MPs that are trying to thwart Brexit, they would probably still win their seats, but just by less majority. So there seems like there's no real way we can even hurt them.
Tom, you may be right, but, we do occasionally get big changes in politics. The Liberal Party governed the country before the First World War. It disappeared after it. Labour became the opposition. Occasionally, we get a massive shift and change in British politics. Whether we're ready for one, it's tough to say. Tom, thank you. You're listening to The Nigel Farage Show here on LBC at 6:30 in time for the news with Lisa Aziz.
Julian Assange is facing jail after a judge in London found him guilty of breaching his bail in 2012. The US Department of Justice has also charged the WikiLeaks founder with breaking into a classified government computer following his arrest at the Ecuadorian embassy this morning. His lawyer says he'll fight any extradition proceedings. Labour's confirmed the Prime Minister and party leader Jeremy Corbyn had a short meeting in Parliament today following Brexit discussions between their officials. The EU's granted another extension until the 31st of October, but Theresa May's told MPs she still wants to leave before the end of May to avoid the UK taking part in European Parliament elections. A woman's been jailed for at least 15 years for murder after stabbing her husband while she was drunk. 43-year-old Natasha Welsh attacked Martin Welsh with a 15-centimetre kitchen knife at their home in Hendon in northwest London in October last year while their son was upstairs. LBC weather dry with clear spells for many through tonight. Cloudy with the odd shower across northern Scotland and eastern England, a low of -3.
LBC at the weekend. Matt Fry.
There are many people who agree with you that the sequence of withdrawal discussions was wrong, that Article 50 should not have been triggered at the beginning. But to use words like traitors, quislings and collaborators is just frankly unacceptable.
Why is it?
This is because it's not the language of democracy.
We live in a free country.
It doesn't make you a Democrat, it makes you an extremist.
No. Leading Britain's conversation. Matt Fry. Saturday mornings from 10 on LBC.
From big business owner to small startups, the LBC Business Hour with BT answers all the questions you may have.
When it comes to selling your startup business, nobody can actually have that passion that you've got for it yourself. For me, that's why the startup failure rate is high, because they don't know how to market and sell themselves.
Join Ian Dale every Thursday evening from 8 for the LBC Business Hour with BT, helping you to be there for the moments that matter in business. And LBC.
Helen's homecoming lamb.
It's a lot quieter around here since the boys went off to college. Sunday roast was always the highlight. All the family around the table for my roast leg of lamb with salsa verde crust. I'm doing it again today. It's their favourite, and hang on a minute.
Hi, Mum. We brought a couple of pals back. Is that all right?
Yeah, it's good to have them back. For a couple of weeks.
Make your own homecoming roast with our tender, tasty grass-fed lamb. Food Love Stories, brought to you by Tesco.
There's some of the biggest names in banking. Lloyds, TSB, Halifax, Barclays, NatWest, HSBC, MBNA. And yet they, along with other banks, were guilty of mis-selling PPI to their customers. The deadline for PPI claims is now just months away. So it's time to find out for sure if you have any PPI. Just text ANSWER to 66777 and the claims guys will start your claim. Text ANSWER to 66777 now. Alternatively, you can complain direct to your lender or the Financial Ombudsman for free.
The claims guys.
The great British weather. One day you're cozying in with the family, the next you're chilling out in the garden. But whatever you're doing, Trusted Trader are always on hand to help. TrustedTrader.com have lots of really lovely tradespeople who are vetted, reviewed and reliable, unlike the weather. So for roofers who stop the rain coming in, gardeners for when the sun comes out, and other professionals in their trade, simply visit TrustedTrader.com.
5 out of 5. It's a fantastic smart TV, decent value for money, and the picture quality is incredible. Not that I've actually watched it, never even used it. That's right, this is a fake review, and I can paint quite the picture for the right price, of course, wasting your time and your money.
A fake review could cost you more than you think. A Which membership helps you avoid these lies. Search Which for impartial product reviews. Which, keep questioning.
You know your business, what keeps you up at night, and the moments that make it all worthwhile. You know your 5-year plan, and that you really want to be there in 2. We know we can help you get there. Barclays offers unsecured loans of up to £100,000 that can be with you in days or even hours. To apply for a loan that's right for your business, search Barclays Business Loans. Let's go forward. Subject to status, T's and C's apply, guarantee may be needed.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC.
A 6-month extension. We're not leaving now until the 31st of October. Halloween. Is it trick or is it treaty? I want to know what you want to see happen in that 6-month period. But before that, after 7.5 unbelievably long years living inside the Ecuadorian embassy, something today fundamentally changed. It had been rumoured for some time, and following this story is LBC's reporter Rachel Venables. Rachel, what actually happened there today?
Oh, well, an incredible day. And actually, it started with a real shocking email from the Metropolitan Police this morning at just after 10 o'clock, announcing that they had arrested 47-year-old Julian Assange, a man the police, of course, had been looking for nearly 7 years after he skipped bail back in 2012 by actually going into the embassy in Knightsbridge, seeking asylum there, trying to avoid extradition to Sweden on account of a number of rape and sexual assault charges against him that he denies and which have since been dropped. Now, after we got that email, and certainly it felt like most journalists in London, sprinted down to Knightsbridge to the Ecuadorian embassy, where we were too late to see him dragged out by 6 plainclothed police officers, and he was put in the back of a police van. Now, video footage showed the WikiLeaks founder looking frail with a long white beard. He was gesturing and clearly shouting, and what's quite incredible about this is that it was actually his hosts who opened the front door and let the police officers in. Finally, Ecuador seems to have said enough. They handed him the withdrawal notice of his asylum at 10 o'clock today, and he was arrested not long after that.
Now, obviously, he's broken his bail conditions, and we know that. But the American dimension has come into play already, I understand.
Yes, and it was for fear of extradition to America, which is why he claims he went into the embassy in the first place. So interestingly, one of the things that his lawyer said when she came out of court much later on today was Julian Assange thanks his supporters and says, "I told you so," because within minutes almost of him being arrested for breaching his bail conditions, which is something that he's since been found guilty of and he will be sentenced for later on. We also heard he'd been arrested almost a second time on behalf of the US, and that was with an extradition warrant, and it's on charges of conspiracy to commit computer intrusion based back in 2010 when former US intelligence analyst Chelsea Manning was arrested for disclosing more than 700,000 confidential documents, videos and diplomatic cables to Assange's anti-secrecy website WikiLeaks. So you had these sort of twin charges which he had to face at Westminster Magistrates Court today. As I say, he was found guilty of the skipping bail charges, and the extradition hearing, the next extradition hearing, will take place at the start of May.
The one thing that confuses me is the Ecuadorian government said that they wouldn't allow him to be arrested and extradited to a country that practiced the death penalty.
It is fascinating, actually, how much the internal politics of Ecuador has come into play here, and certainly the shift there in president, the shift there in government, which has meant that really over the last year or so he has had his situation in the embassy itself made, as far as his supporters would say, actually quite untenable. You know, things like visitors were restricted, he had access to internet and phones cut out as well, and the Ecuadorians certainly at the beginning were very supportive of him, but by the end you've basically got the president saying he no longer wanted to give asylum to Assange. He accused Assange of all sorts of things, including, you know, sort of getting involved in international, getting involved on the international stage by WikiLeaks continuing to leak other items. More recently, things, cables and documents from the Vatican. And eventually, it seems that they'd finally had enough, and that's why they made that decision today, allowing the police in and allowing, as we then know, the extradition to take place.
Rachel, thank you very much indeed. That was Rachel Venables, who's followed this Assange case very closely. And I went to meet Julian Assange 2 years ago. It's led to many conspiracy theories. In fact, even articles in broadsheet newspapers suggesting that I was running memory sticks between the White House and Julian Assange and somehow working with the Russians on the other side. I went to meet Julian Assange because LBC organised for me to go and meet Julian Assange. The idea was he hadn't done a big UK interview for a very long time, and that's what the meeting was for. I'm not particularly a fan of WikiLeaks or of Julian Assange, although I did feel that the European arrest warrant issued by Sweden against him was on pretty dodgy ground. He looked pretty pale and looked to be living, from what I could see of it, a pretty awful life. But the reason he was there for 7.5 years, he feared going to America, but it seems to me to be pretty clear that is where he's going. Back to our topic. Is it going to be trick or treaty on Halloween? Jim in Brixton is a new caller. Hi, Jim.
Hi, Nigel. How you doing?
I'm all right-ish. So
I'm a bit nervous, Nigel. I've never run into a radio show before.
Well, do you know what, Jim? I think what I'm seeing here with LBC is a lot of people like you who've never picked up the phone, never rung in before, but the passions are running really, really high.
But Nigel, I've got some concerns because I was introduced to you. We met once actually. You were having a pint and a fag in the pub, and I knew a UKIP candidate from Hampshire who I liked.
Okay.
And I'm having a cigarette in your honour now just to calm my nerves a bit. But and I could completely understand the argument that you were making then, which was we when was it 1974 we voted to join an economic community, not a political one, and that you thought that had all gone too far. But I'm worried that the momentum, Nigel, we've lost it because I don't understand why you didn't go on that march. You asked people to go, and then a million people on the street on the other side, and you didn't go on the 60-mile march.
Well, it was
the 60 people march.
Jim, it was a 270-mile march from Sunderland to London, and I marched 30 or 40 miles of it. I actually have a day job to do as well.
But that wasn't reported in the media. You've done that much, so I take that back. But
I tell you what, the hell with the media. But they can say what they like. Jim, we're in a very odd place.
I know.
We're in a very odd place.
Nigel, there's one other thing I want to ask you because it worries me as someone that has met you in the past and understood your rationale. I read somewhere on Twitter the other day that you'd said that if Brexit didn't happen, we should pick up, all don khaki and pick up a rifle.
Jim,
I
don't know who you are. We've clearly never met before. You're having a lot of fun. We'll move on. I've always said, and listeners to this show will know, whenever I get callers coming on and saying they think this could degenerate into violence because people are so unhappy, I always say that I've always done my best to make sure that people have peaceful and democratic means to express their disgust at whatever is going on. I would like to see Mrs May bring back the withdrawal bill without the backstop. It'd be passed and then appoint a high-profile tech company to resolve the Irish border issue. There's no point. The European Parliament did that in 2017. They produced a report how the Irish border was going to operate, but suddenly Monsieur Barnier saw it as a negotiating tactic. If we were to pass that treaty without the backstop, the EU wouldn't even entertain it. Dave is calling from Edenbridge, and there's a new caller. Hi, Dave.
Oh, hi, Nigel. How are you doing, sir?
OK, what would you like to see? I mean, is a new Prime Minister perhaps a solution here, Dave?
Well, yes, definitely in the next few months for sure. To whether we get Mrs May just to push something over the line, and then when we move on to the transition talks, I mean, everyone keeps forgetting that this is just this deal is not the end deal. It's just a soft bit. The big prize is actually leaving, and I think people forget that a lot. As if this deal we're going to do is there forever, although the Irish backstop thing is a big problem.
Well, it is a big problem, isn't it? Because we would be entering into an international treaty that we cannot leave unless the European Union says we can.
Yeah, I think totally, I get that. But I think people seem to think that this treaty is the thing that will go on for years and years. It's actually just a 2-year thing. At the end of 2 years, we then could almost no deal it at the end of it, if you so wished.
Dave, even though this thing's expensive, even though it's bad in so many areas, I'm quite convinced if we were able to get out of it at the end of 2 years, Parliament would have voted for it. It's just the backstop. There's lots of it I don't like, but it's the backstop that prevented it from getting it through.
Totally. I mean, my thing at the moment, I was a Remainer, but now I'm an ardent Leaver. on the democracy side, full stop. But the thing is that the three things I don't get is Labour have to put their party forward. They put the national interest behind them. The Eurosceptics had the prize on the table last week and they left it. And Mrs May did that Irish backstop thing, what was it, late last year. Absolute terrible. So the three things that sit in my mind. But one of the reasons I'm phoning is that everyone's not seemed to miss the point of what happened last night. Is that there was this thing that there was going to be. That's it. We're going to get 29th of March. That's it. It's a hard Brexit. Hard will extend it. And every time they say that's it, you either agree or it's a hard Brexit. The EU blinked last night. No one. We can't threaten hard exit anymore.
Well, I think the truth of it is, Dave, that they've known from the very start that Mrs May never meant it about WTO leaving, and we hear tonight they're even closing down the department in Whitehall in charge of it. Dave, she never meant it. And if you go into a negotiation saying something the other side, no, you don't mean, you're probably going to lose, aren't you?
Yeah, for sure. But Eurosceptics now, they can't force a hard exit. So, the only thing that, and to give them credibility, a lot of them say, I can't do Mrs May's deal, even though the deal stinks, because it throws unionists under the bus.
Yes.
I accept that fact. But the Eurosceptics cannot say, let's hold out for a hard deal, because they'll never get it.
Well, Dave, I don't know what's going to happen in the next few weeks. There is a possibility that a European election might just shake things up. Thanks for your call. You're listening to The Nigel Farage Show here on LBC at 6:45, and time for the news headlines with Lisa Rizzi.
Julian Assange's lawyer says the WikiLeaks founder will challenge any extradition proceedings to the US after being arrested at the Ecuadorian embassy in London 7 years after first taking refuge there. Theresa May's had a short meeting with Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn this afternoon after telling MPs she still wants the UK to leave the EU before the end of May with a Brexit deal. A woman's been jailed for at least 15 years for murder after stabbing her husband while she was drunk at their home in northwest London. LBC weather, dry with clear spells for many tonight, cloudy with showers across northern Scotland and eastern England, a low of -3.
LBC Travel, I'm Katie Tyler. Queues continue around Hammersmith Bridge as it stays shut for emergency repairs until further notice. It's struggling on the A4 in both directions through Chiswick and on routes through Mortlake, East Sheen and Fulham. It's also very slow over Putney Bridge. There are queues on the A2 eastbound between Dartford Heath and Northfleet because of an accident, and it's stop-start on the A13 eastbound between the East India Dock Tunnel and the Beckton flyover. That's because of an accident, and a lane is also closed for emergency repairs.
Coming up at 7 on LBC, Ian Dale.
Donald Trump in 2016. I love WikiLeaks. Trump today. I know nothing about WikiLeaks, not my thing. Tonight, Julian Assange is in prison. Should he be extradited?
Ian Dale on LBC.
A golden wedding anniversary or a landmark birthday party. Who says getting older can't be fun? And with HiveLink, you can help your loved one to keep their independence as they get older too. It's the new smart service that lets you check that they're getting on with their day as usual from your phone and lets you know if something seems out of the ordinary. HiveLink. Connect with care. For more information and to be in with the chance to win an iPhone XS and a HiveLink subscription, go to lbc.co.uk.
We are working with partners to help
Londoners breathe cleaner air.
That's why we've installed
over 175 electric rapid charge points.
Some exclusively for taxis.
And others for rapid charging cars and vans.
Now that's a breath of fresh air for everyone. Search TfL improvements.
To the Mayor of London
and TfL.
Every journey matters.
Don't you just love an Easter egg hunt? Trouble is, I always forget where I've hidden them. Not to worry, I've tracked down a few more at Co-op. This Easter you can get 3 large eggs for £10. And that includes Cadbury Whisper, Maltesers Teasers and Galaxy Golden. Maybe I won't hide these. We'll just share them instead. Selected eggs only while stocks last. See participating stores for details.
When your business is in flow, things get done, new contracts won, smiles all round, everything's sound. Hands on deck, your best year yet. And then an unmissable opportunity comes up. A real no-brainer. iWalker Online, loan in time. People hired, feel inspired.
Whatever your business, our finance can keep things flowing. We are iWalker. Search it how you say it. iWalker. helping business flow.
Reasons to be cheerful. 1, 2, 3.
If you've got BT Broadband, BT Mobile have something just for you. You and everyone you live with get an exclusive £5 off our mobile plans every month. Of course, if you're not with BT, you might be wishing you were. BT Mobile gives back more.
Reasons to be cheerful. 1, 2, 3.
BT. Be there. Discounted price for BT Broadband Homes excludes business.
Well Man and Well Woman are the leading multivitamins for men and for women. Comprehensive formulas with vitamins B6 and B12 to support normal energy release. Live life well. Well Man and Well Woman from Vitabiotics, the UK's #1 vitamin company. From Boots, pharmacies and vitabiotics.com.
5 stars would definitely recommend. It's a quality car seat. Strong, sturdy and 100% safe. Perfect for our little lad. Not that I'd know. Never even owned a car seat. Don't have a car, don't have kids, don't have a conscience. I don't care if you end up with an unsafe product. Not when I'm getting paid to write fake reviews.
A fake review could cost you more than you think. A Which membership helps you avoid these lies. Search Which for impartial product reviews. Which, keep questioning.
A lot of Londoners aren't happy about the ultra-low emission zone. We talked to some of them.
£12.50 is an absolute liberty. Are they taking the...
Renault Zoe.
It's a joke, mate. Trying to charge people extra money for driving in the city, but...
Renault Zoe.
Me, it's ridiculous. It's just an absolute...
Renault Zoe.
It really is.
Keep it clean with the all-electric Renault Zoe. 0 tailpipe emissions, 0 ULEZ charge. Search Renault Zoe.
This is LBC, the Nigel Farage Show. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag Farage on LBC.
So the Brexit can's been kicked down the road for another 6 months. We're now due to leave on the 31st of October. Halloween, is it trick or is it treaty? And Kathy says, Nigel, does all this mean that Mr. Trump has to wait until we get Brexit until he'll trade with us? No, Kathy. We already do a lot of business with the USA. We're the biggest investor in America. They're the biggest investor in our country. And you know something? We do it all on, yes, WTO terms. Where are you parliamentarians telling us there is no world on WTO rules? There is. But, Kathy, freed from the constraints of the customs market, we would be able to get rid of barriers to trade and do a whole lot more business and make products a bit cheaper with America and many other parts of the world. It's one of the prizes of Brexit, and it's almost incomprehensible that it's a Conservative Prime Minister negotiating with the Labour Party to potentially take that opportunity away. And she used some real weasel words on this in the House of Commons this afternoon, as she so often does. David in Hereford says, Nigel, how does Geoffrey Cox, QC MP, rate, in your opinion, as a future Tory PM? David, the last I saw, he was about 40-1 at being the next leader, and I am a betting person. I thought he's one of the few people in government who's come out of the Brexit crisis over the last few months with any honesty and any integrity, and actually I've been pretty impressed by him. Whether he's well known enough within the party to become leader, I don't know, but I think he is. I honestly believe that Geoffrey Cox has played this with a straight bat and been very honest. Let's go to Barclay, who's calling from Swindon, and yet another new caller. Hi, Barclay.
Good afternoon, Nigel. How are you doing?
We're doing just about okay. So
Fantastic.
What do you want, Barclay? Second referendum, new leader, revoke Article 50? What do you fancy?
Well, I voted Remain in the 2016 elections. Personally, I felt, because I do believe in immigration, I do believe that we should have freedom of movement. However, 17.3 million people actually voted to leave, and therefore Mrs May should be carrying out the will of the people.
So you believe in democracy, Barclay?
I certainly do, yes. However, one thing I would say is Mrs May is not the person to take this forward for the country.
No. So, but the problem is, of course, that the ERG had this attempted coup, didn't they, last December?
Yes.
She came through it, and unless the men in grey suits, unless the whole cabinet, I guess, say to her go, we could be stuck with her for a bit. But if she was to go, is there anyone there, Barclay, that you see that you think could do this job properly?
Well, I was looking at David Rees-Mogg. He looks, a very, very a certain person. The problem with Mrs. May is I can see the cracks in her. To be fair, she had a bad deal passed over from David Cameron. Now she really is looking like that she's straight. Well, to be honest, it's like somebody trying to empty their bottom. It is really...
Okay. Okay, thank you, Barclay. Let's get a Paul in Romford. Hi, Paul.
Hi, good evening, Nigel.
Good evening. So,
this is the first time I'm calling your radio station.
Well, welcome to you. Welcome to you.
Yeah.
So 6 more months, Paul. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's a bad thing. Actually, I voted Remain in the referendum. But after the results, I just felt that we should honor the results of the referendum.
Yes.
I mean, it's a democracy. Once if this were happening in an African country or something, the president would probably come out and say, I cancel the result. But actually what they're doing is doing it through the back door.
If this was if this was happening, Paul, in an African country, the whole Western world would be crying foul and saying, isn't it awful? And yet it's happening.
That's what they would have been doing.
In the country that has got the mother of parliament. And I wonder whether this is not leading to a breakdown of fundamental trust that needs to exist between the governors and the governed in our country. I really do. He's gone. Let's go to Manchester. Speak to Peter, another new caller. Hi, Peter.
Hi, Nigel. Thanks for taking the call.
Not one bit. So, what would you like to see happen? Give me a solution, Peter. Give the country a solution. Come on.
Well, an autocracy never, ever, ever lasts. So, but equally, people who shy away and admit defeat are never the ones to beat an autocracy. So we've got 6 months opportunity here to, I suppose, regroup. It was a win for the referendum, and since then, the majority of the country are not anti-democratic. If anything, some of the Remain voters have moved over to a Leave. Any vote that takes place, be it a referendum, the European elections, local, etc., it's almost like another referendum because it's bringing people out to vote to say,
Yeah, I mean, you're quite right in one way that the 23rd of May will be the first time voters have expressed an opinion on this since the referendum, because in the general election they were assured by both parties that the result would be honoured. Peter, do you think, is there any part of you that thinks that maybe a second referendum would solve this, or would another Leave vote simply be ignored by Parliament again?
Well, I think this Parliament it would be ignored because, the people that have voted down this deal, with all the tactics to get them to change their mind, the ones that are still voting it down are never going to vote for it now, so they can't get that deal through. And also, if they did, I think Theresa May would say, there you go, I've honoured the referendum, so it would be a bit more difficult for us. But if they got a Brexiteer Prime Minister, they've still got a lot of Remain MPs.
I know.
So it sort of takes a fresh party. A Conservative party, a true Conservative party, for instance, is only a true Conservative party if it's full of true Conservatives. So it's only Conservative by name now. And I think that maybe the proper Conservatives within that party should align elsewhere, be it another party or... find a way to get rid of the ones that are against the manifesto.
You never know. Maybe, just maybe, big change is coming. Thank you very much indeed for that. Well, I don't know whether big change is coming or not, but Article 50 has been delayed once again. And that, of course, means that these European elections are happening. Now, you'll know, regular listeners, I've been saying since August that I thought the can would get kicked down the road. But yeah, we now know that nominations open, the European election period starts tomorrow, and the elections are due to take place on the 23rd of May. There is a ludicrous idea they could be stopped midstream, but that simply isn't going to happen. And you'll also know, after 25 years of fighting in this battle, I can't walk away from this. I'm committed to standing in them, and indeed, I'll be launching my campaign tomorrow morning. So, I'm going to be off air for the next few weeks during the course of this campaign. I've been with you for 2¼ years. I've barely missed an evening during the week. I've absolutely loved it. I've enjoyed the interaction with all of you. Well, nearly all of you, certainly. So what you're going to get is more of Eddie Mair in the week, and he'll be coming in and filling in the 6 o'clock slot. And Ian Dale will do the same on Sunday mornings at 10 o'clock. So for now, you've been listening to The Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. And at 10 o'clock tonight, it's Tom Swarbrick. But up next, it's Ian Dale.
Do you want to come on as a guest on Sunday morning one night?
Oh, yeah, do invite me in. I'd love to come on.
Big shoes to fill, Nigel.